Hotep, hotep, hotep. Good day, everyone. Good day, everyone. This is Kush Mania, where all roads lead to Kush. I'm your host, Afeeomomo Tuunmaa the First. Welcome, 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 welcome. First things first, just want to say, give love out to the people, and shouts out to our people, the indigenous black people all over the world, whether you're in America, Africa, Asia, wherever you are, those that are in Europe, those in the Polynesian Islands, everywhere. I like to send greetings and salutations to you all. I recently came back from Ghana. I had a beautiful trip over in West Africa. I was there for 9 months. I did so much and learned so much and was a part of so much that it was life changing. I'm grateful to the Creator. I'm grateful to my ancestors. I'm grateful to my family and friends and all those that helped me and supported me um, and encouraged me while I was there on my trip. I had a lot of um, backlash and a bunch of smack talking too that was going on. It was a whole lot of that, and that was very shocking, I must say, because as a person who always wanted to study self and learn about self, um, you always want to learn more about yourself. You don't want to stop at just one place. You want to keep on learning and keep gradually getting better and learning about self. Because the old mantra of the ancestors is to know thyself. Because when you know thyself, you're going to know your creator and get closer to your creator and get closer to nature, in short, which is closer to a healthy living and a healthy life. Our ancestors had society that was based off of being holistic, being one with nature and being and one with creator, basically being one with yourself. And so this is not something that I learned by traveling. This is something that I already knew. But from traveling, I was able to see certain things visually that I always wanted to see. I always knew that us as original people, as black people, that we have something special to us. And please excuse me if you're offended about me using the word black, but when you get into linguistics and you get into the ancient languages of Africa, you will start seeing that we had no problem with that term. We actually embraced it. We embraced it even when we were in Asia, because the Sumer, even Sumer, they refer to themselves as the blackheads. So um, in Kemet, which they call Egypt, they refer to themselves as Kemetu or Tamori or Tawi, right? So the Tamori is land, Tawi is the two lands, and Kemetu are the people. And you'll know this by the determinatives that's left at the end of the sentence when you understand the Medu or the divine language of our ancestors. You have our capital here in the United States, which is Washington, D.C. Everything runs out of there. In Africa, you have Egypt. That's the capital of the ancient black people, back then and even today. Um, During my trip, when I was over in Africa, I was with the Gas, known as the Gadagbe. They're an ancient tribe, they're a warrior tribe, and they are the founding tribe of Accra, Ghana, which is the capital, the most booming place in Africa right now, I must say. And I'm with the ruling family. But um, they're a warrior tribe. I mean, a lot of people in America, we know nothing about the God tribe. We know about Mandinka and Ashanti and the Kentes. We know stuff like that. We know Shaka Zulu. We know nothing about the gods, who are the actual founders, and all the other tribes that are of the Khan. We know of the Khan, we know of the Ashanti, but we know nothing of um, the Achim, the Aquapam, um, Bosame, etc. We don't know that the Akan breaks down into 7 other and more tribes. We don't know that the God breaks down into this. You don't understand? So we're not understanding all of that. And also we don't understand the connection between all of the Africas amongst themselves and the tribes. So how they extend from the Nile, from the original Kush civilization. On the ancient pyramid walls in Nubia or Sudan today, the people refer to themselves as Kush, right? And so, if I'm not mistaken, it's like a bowl that looks like it has a little teacup at the end with the little circle at the end, and it has like the little flag sign, like the little with the 2 circles and the little thing that goes around. So it's Kush, right? They don't refer to themselves um, as Talmudi, but the people of Kush, right? And you'll see the determinative at the end, like I said earlier. But anyway, the West African tribes, when you see their histories, they'll tell you how they extended and came from out of the Nile. That was interesting for me to learn that, because as I'm doing these rituals and certain things that we're doing, I want to learn, and I'm asking questions to the Wolome, which is the head priest of where this stuff comes from. I might even have a picture, as you can see me walking with him as we're doing the Homo Festival. Um, which is like their hunger festival for them, going on their migration all the way from Egypt, where they went to they were in Sudan, Ethiopia, Uganda. They go to Chad, the middle areas, to Nigeria, Benin, Togo, and then they ended up in Ghana. Just like in America, you have the Trails of Tears, where certain tribes left from the East Coast and they ended up all the way on the West Coast, like myself, ended up in California, because my family were Cherokees, were from the East, went all the way down to further down south to Louisiana, to Oklahoma, Arizona, hence California. And so when you understand your American migrations and you see the African migrations, you see it well. When you understand your genealogy and you see their genealogy, you start understanding things well. For myself, I have I'm triracial, which means I have American Indian ancestry, which I can prove. I have European ancestry that was mixed in, which I can prove. We already know how that came about. And then we have I have African ancestry, which I can prove. All of this is through records that I have, not through a blood test or anything like that. I have record from my birth certificate to these people that I'm talking about. And so I can go back 25 generations to 2 um, Kush women from the Gala that came over here with Sir Edmund Andros, who was the governor of the colonies. Then he became the governor of just Virginia. And then Sir Edmund Andros left to go back home, got sick and died, but he left his overseer, Oliver Littlejohn, was in control of his estate. Oliver Littlejohn got control over Sir Edmund Andros' servants that Sir Edmund Andros got from the Gala of Ethiopia. The Gala is, we would say, a derogatory term for the Oromo people. So he went and got 14 Oromo people, brought them over to England to train them how to be servants. If I'm not mistaken, King Charles sent him over to America in like 1690. Yeah, around that time, he sent him over and he brought 6 of his servants with him, 3 women and 3 men. 3 of those women I descend from. My 4th great grandfather specifically, and his wife descend from 2 of them. But all of the children mixed in, because Oliver Littlejohn, who was the overseer, ended up marrying one of my grandmothers, ended up having children. All those children, we only went from Virginia to PG County, Maryland, where I was born, and then we went to South Carolina, Cherokee County in South Carolina. My father is born 1 county above in North Carolina, the very next county above in Cherrysville. So without the borders, there would just be 1 people. But anyway, my lineage goes back to Kush. And so as being over in Africa, seeing the connection between Egypt and the West Africans, and knowing about the slave trade, of the 300,000 plus Africans that came to the East Coast of the Atlantic side of America. And then we ain't talking about the other millions or whatnot that went down to South America and to Brazil. Brazil has the biggest African indigenous culture outside of Africa, period. Brazil is the ruling in African spirituality because they're so close, and they know their lineage. And not only do they know their lineage, but their rituals and practices have been kept up all the time since they've been there. And so while I was in Africa, I got a call from my brother who was over in Ethiopia. He doesn't like to be mentioned, but we're doing great things over there in the headquarters of Kush, what we call it, like the headquarters. And he put me on a phone call when I was in Ghana. My chapstick. He put me on a phone call, and I was on a call with. I'm not gonna put their name out there either, but I was on a phone call with a diaspora organization. Let's say that, and the diaspora organization were Africans from an African sister, I think was from Uganda. It was some other Africans from Europe. I think it was another one from the islands, Caribbean islands, and another one from America. And I sat back and I was listening to their discussion, and I was chilling. And then after a while, when I was asked to speak, I had a few things I wanted to address. And this was last year, I think around October maybe. And so the things that I wanted to address were I didn't understand their input on the diasporan conversation because, and I'm speaking to those who understand diasporanness. I'm not speaking to those who are so caught up on their indigenous Americanness that they don't have no African in them and they just pure blood. And I'm not even talking to you right now. I'm talking to those who talk about the diasporanism. And this is going to link into that too as well. But I'm just talking about being a diasporian. Now, as I was on this call, what I noticed was my perspective of diasporianism, I guess, if that's even a word, is totally different than what they were explaining. And when I came in, basically, I wasn't trying to be offensive, but I said, may I ask, I had a few questions I needed to know. I needed to know, what is your nationality? They told me the nationality. I needed to know, what tribe were you from? I got to know the tribe. I needed to know your tribal chief. They gave me the tribal chiefs. I needed to know your tribal customs and food. I needed to know, what was your tribal area. I needed to know which one of your ancestors were enslaved. I needed to know which one of your ancestors suffered slavery through transatlantic, Red Sea, Indian Ocean, etc. Which one of your ancestors suffered slavery by having to leave the country by boat? Which one of your ancestors, when they left that country by boat, survived to have you here? Which one of your ancestors that left by boat made it, fought through all of the wars of that country, and then, for instance, when you landed, when those who did come to America and landed, you had to go through a whole lot. Either you fighting with the Europeans or you running away and you with some tribe and you fighting with the Europeans, regardless, against the Europeans. So you have to go through the tribal wars. You got to go through the Revolutionary War. You got to go through all of these battles. Battle of 1812, Battle Creek this and Battle that. You got to go through all of these battles. You got to go through these Trail of Tears. You have to go through um the civil rights. You got to go through slavery. You got to go through civil war. I mean, you got to go through Jim Crowism. You got to go through lynching and hangings. Then you got to go through the civil rights. Then you got to fight. You got to like fight for your freedom and all this stuff in a whole nother country. Like, that's what I call a diasporan. I don't call a diasporan somebody. My first initial question to them, pardon me, everyone, was, are you first or second generation? And I got first and second. So that's why I led into the other questions. Oh, what is your nationality? What tribe are you from? Who's your tribal chief? What food do you eat? Where's your local tribal area at? What are your customs? How do you get married? What type of clothes do you wear? What animals are in your location? What type of homes are you making? What's made out of the homes that you make? If you could answer all of these type of questions, you're not a diasporan. You're an damn African who knows everything about his Africanness. Or you're, you know what I mean? You're the tribe of wherever your people come from. You're really that. You know exactly who you are. You have not lost anything. So what is this? You're a diasporan. You're a diasporan just because you moved up the street. Africa is 9 miles from Europe. So you can't move 9 miles from your continent and then say that you a diasporan. You're not a diasporan if you can always go home. You're not a diasporan if you know which home to go to. Not just the continent, but you know where in the continent you're going to. You know your people. Hey, what is your language? Can you speak your language? Yes. How are you a diasporan? I was lost because I didn't understand their perspective of being a diasporan. An African perspective of being a diasporan is moving outside of Africa and linking up with other Africans who know they're Africans. Not by school teaching. I'm talking about they know they're Africans because they know their history and they know their lineage. When they leave their country, if an African is from Tanzania, he's coming to America trying to hook up with Tanzanians. Or he left Tanzania with Tanzanians, sticking with those Tanzanians while he's in America. And they're going to start a Tanzanian community because they're going to bring other people from their country here to America. I don't have a problem with that. Other people, I don't have a problem with that. That's what any natural person would try to do to try to better themselves to be in the best place that they can. It's just natural. Other people do it. The Europeans came over here and they got everything for free. And they built up themselves. Europeans who wasn't even considered white, now they considered white, all because they all wanted to be white and try to better themselves. So that's something that Black people need to learn how to do. Learn how to be one so you can all benefit everybody, the best of you, here and there. But the problem with our people is we don't see ourselves the same. We only see ourselves here as something different. The Europeans here don't see themselves different. They might have fought in the war, but when it comes down to closed doors, they are in the one. When they become a president over here, they go over to England like Barack Obama, and they get knighted by the Queen. It's against the law under the Constitution, for an official of the United States to have and to get blessed and get stuff from other nations. You're not supposed to get that type of stuff. But anyway, back to the point. I didn't understand their perspective of diasporanness because you would have to go through a lot of the stuff that we went through over here to call yourself a diasporan. I don't consider you just moving to another country and trying to better yourself and be doing business only with your people who know who they are, a diasporan. That's not what we consider a diasporan, just to let you know. Also, when it comes to the diasporan, that's basically it. I have no problem with them because that's what they're supposed to do. I also asked them another question. I said, name me the African organization that's leading the diasporans in America or in Europe, um, that teaches us culture, that gives us a link and a bridge to be able to come back and forth and to learn. What's the name of the organization? You know, there's a big thing in America that they say, you know, the Africans just left us here, which is a straight cop out because if they were getting attacked there and their people were getting snatched from there and getting taken somewhere else, how they gonna come and defend you when they're trying to defend their homeland? It don't even make no sense. And then they get colonized and you over here. How they gonna come back for you? The person who liberated Africa, Kwame Nkrumah, learned was in a student at Pennsylvania University and was a member of the UNIA with Marcus Garvey. He studied with the brothers and sisters in the movement in Harlem and stuff like that in New York, and got himself together and wrote them books by Booker T. Washington and all that type of stuff. And he got his blackness together in America and then came back and freed his country off of what Marcus Garvey was saying. And then they end up starting to free themselves. So they freed themselves off of what you were doing. The Arab Spring and all these other people, they free themselves off of your civil rights and what you're doing. Not coming to America to take your civil rights, but they use what you did in your mentality and they push that over in their country. Now, should we have a more connection with the African brothers and sisters that come over here? Yes, we should, because we're all the same, period, point blank. The reason we don't is because you have two branches of Africans. You have the Africans who left 60,000 years ago out of Africa and ended up in America by boat, by walking, etc. They were already over here. Then you had, as far as America, then you had the Siberian inflation that came over to America that warred with the original Africans or original Black indigenous people that was already in America. Then you had the influx of the slave transatlantic slave trade that come over to America. Now you mixing in the old African with the new African. Regardless, they still the same people. You have the American who has a blind eye over all nationality. It ain't just African or indigenous American nationality. They don't see nothing because of what they've been through. Then they're double. They got indigenous ancestry already, and then they've been mixed in with either all of the foreigners that came over, whether it was European or whether it was the Africans, because they was put together on a plantation like that. They was put together in a society like that. They were redlined in certain districts like that, where they had to live together, where they had to do certain things. A lot of my family members are with Mexican women because we are so close to Mexico here in California. Parts of this place used to be Mexico. Not only that, the fact that we live amongst each other in the same community, we're redlined in the same district. You understand? So those mixtures are going to come about. So the American so-called Negro, if he has indigenous ancestry, he should tap into that. You should tap into all of your ancestries. But regardless, when you tap into the tribal life, you should understand tribal life everywhere. And tap into those, especially the ones that look like you, because you're all getting put in the same bucket and bowl anyway. Come on, man, make sense out of this. The next thing was, so was the ADOS. ADOS is Tony Moore. That's my little bro from next door at the Millennium Barbershop. He grew up coming in the barbershop, getting his hair cut by Tran, battling and talking smack every time he came here. Tony Moore is the number one we would say like, boy, you gonna be a boule. You just a young boule. We used to just mess with him like that and stuff like that because he always had that little prestige. Like, I want to be better than all you guys. Just watch me. I'll prove you wrong. I'll prove everything you're saying is wrong. Blah 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 blah. That's the mentality of Tony. He tried to come in and try to challenge everybody by himself. He's so funny, man. We'll jack him up every time. The only time he started getting good is when you can start seeing that our actual teachings that he was getting from the barbershop was actually winning him arguments in college. So he ended up becoming an attorney, a good attorney, in fact, and he started pushing out. He's pushing for the people. So he comes up with this thing called uh, ADOS, African American Descendants of Slavery. Oh, Aboriginal community going crazy, right? So I need some water, some chapstick. Excuse me. I'm gonna get off in a second. So, I have to reach out to Tony. I don't even know if he hit me back, but I reached out to him. I think it was on Instagram, or I might have got his number from Trent or something like that. But I reached out to him. And I said, "Yo, African American descendants of slavery. How is that possible?" This was this even last year? Maybe early 2021. Yeah. So I said, maybe it was 2020. Yeah, it might have been a while ago. It might have even been a couple of years ago. Regardless, I reached out to him. I said, yo, Tone, um, African American descendants of slavery, how do you do that? Because how do you tell? Like, how do you know? And if you give all of the credit to the African American descendants of slavery, how do you does that go to all of the Africans that come over here? Like, does the payment go to everybody that's just black? Just because you got dark hue, you melanated, you get money? Is that how it go? So that means that just because you African and you black and you over here, you could have just been over here 20 years. They get money too. Their parents didn't fight in civil rights. Their parents didn't go through Jim Crowism and lynchings and hangings. Their parents didn't fight in the Civil War. Their parents weren't demarginalized after the Civil War when they tried to get their government and get their own towns, and they wasn't bombed. They didn't go through actual physical slavery here like how we did. They didn't fight in none of the Indian wars or nothing like that. They didn't come over here through the transatlantic slave trade. What would they be getting money for? Just because they came over here and are living up under our civil rights? I don't understand what's going on. Mind you, I got African blood, bro. But at the same time, I understand what's going on. You got to know the difference of what's going on. I know that I'm the same with my African brothers, but we talking about politics right now. This is politics. You understand what I'm saying? So, for instance, if my grandfather leave land to me to his grandchildren, we have our own land. Just because this land belongs to us as a family, that don't mean my children on my section of the land can go over and start impeding on my relative section of the land. They can't start doing that. And if foreigners come over and started taking one of our relatives' land, right? We have to all go and make sure that we protect his land and make sure foreigners don't come over and take his land. You understand? If that relative sell off his land, we have to make sure that he only sold off his piece. It don't come over to all of ours. You understand? So it's a difference when it comes to property rights and stuff like that. You have to make sure that this stuff is protected. And it starts small, but it gets very broad. So I don't mean when I'm talking like this to say that my African brothers and I are not family. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the plight of which the African that's been in America for so long had to go through. So now, what if he didn't come over here and go through that transatlantic slave trade experience, right? But he's still black and still was already in America, but had to transpire him and his whole family with this whole slave epidemic syndrome and paradigm. He's indigenous, he's dark skinned, already been an American, but now he's classified as a Negro and he's made a slave, along with the transatlantic brothers and sisters that's coming over. They put them all in the same pot. In 82 or 92, they classified the Negro, the African, and the Indian as Negro. Because they can't tell the difference. But my point is, what about the indigenous black man that was already in America? That went through the Holocaust of the Europeans coming over and taking everything that they got, forcing them into slavery with Africans, forcing them into the Revolutionary War, forcing them into all these other battles when they're taking their land, forcing them into the Civil War. After the Civil War, chasing them after the Civil War just to take everything. Now you want to take all of the farmers' land. Jim Crow. Then the Civil Rights Movement. This guy had to go through, these people had to go through so much just to be free on their own land or just to be considered human on their own land. And now all of a sudden, just because we fought for these rights, and now the rest of the immigrants, the gay, lesbian, women, everybody else get the piggyback off of the civil rights movement, and now everybody gets to have their rights, even corporations. You understand? So everybody, even corporations, got civil rights, and animals, right? So everybody got these civil rights, really, except for us, but everyone else is able to use it. And we're supposed to just give you our reparations, or if we've supposedly and will get paid for all of the stuff that we've been through, we're supposed to just give it away to another family that never been through this? What sense does that make? What sense does that make for the American people to give money for the African American descendants of slavery? And even though this person is African, he's never been a descendant of slavery. So why would they be giving him money? That's a take situation. So you don't even want that. It's not making any sense. So the diaspora conversation is not really making no sense to us. And the African American descendants of slavery, it's not making no sense to us, because you will be leaving out the original black man, the original African, the original indigenous, Indian, Aboriginal, autochthonous one of America, copper colored, blah, blah, blah. You're leaving him out if you just go to African American descendants of slavery. So what did I see later on? I saw that it was changed to American descendants of slavery. Why? Because just like I explained to Tony, they will have to show proof. And you're going to have to show proof too, that you was in slavery too. It's not something that you can just talk about. Oh, I was this, I was that. We all were this, we all were that. Even on that, you can't do that. You can't do it on a high side where you want to get your aboriginalness and you want to get your Africanness and all that. You got to have that proof. It's the same thing with being a slave. Just because you black don't mean you was a slave. Your peoples could have been indentured, and you could have been like John Johnson, the first American slave owner, who was a black man who was from, I think, Angola. He came over here. He was an indentured servant. He served 7 years of slavery. After he served his 7 years, he was freed. He got land, and then he did what? He continued the same system of slavery that was practiced during his time. How else was he going to make money? How else do you make money in the 1600s? The Aboriginals, they already had a system, the way they was doing things. How do foreigners make money when they come over to America? How do you make money? You go work at the mall? You gonna work at the grocery store? You gonna go work at the mechanic shop? How do you make money in the 1600s? Is a plantation really a plantation, or is it just a big farm called a plantation? And in order for you to work and feed your family, you must go work on the farm, because big corporations is coming over, just whopping you and killing you and taking your land. So you got to go work in their so-called factory, which is a cotton field at that time. So do you have a record to prove that you have an ancestor that was slavery? I got that too. I got those. Oh yeah, I got that. I got my records. Do you have yours? If you don't, what are you talking about? There's nothing for you to talk about, good or bad, because you don't have nothing. You don't know nothing about yourself. Who are you to say anything? Prove it. Of course you got an opinion. To your damn self. It's worth nothing to nobody else if you can't prove it. So here on Kush Mania, all roads lead to Kush. We're going to demonstrate that, because all my roads lead back to Kush. So that's what this is about. All roads lead to Kush. We're going to be able to prove it. We're going to show it. We're going to have guests. Oh, we're going to have some good guests on here. But right now, we're just going to stick with these basics right here, that we're not trying to beef or have problems with our family, our extended family. What we want to do is we want to learn. The saying goes, our American brothers and sisters of the diaspora, come teach us what we don't know, and we will teach you what you forgot. Yeah. You don't have no tribal life in America. You don't. I live here. I'm a tribal citizen, and it's all watered down and being taken away. I'm not saying that there ain't no tribes that they got it cracking. There are some that got it cracking, but you are nowhere near cracking as what they got over in Africa. You don't got the rhythm, the none of that type of stuff. I've seen it. The culture, the history is too prolonged. Our culture has been so snatched away in America that we show up to a thing, to a spot, and everybody look alike. This Wolf Clan look like that Wolf Clan. This Eagle Clan look like that Eagle Clan. Everybody's showing up looking exactly the same. Just about. Is it beautiful? Yeah, it's still beautiful. Still beautiful. But just look around Africa and look at the cultures and see how people have lived tribally untouched since the beginning of time. The only place we have that over here is in the Amazon. So, in short, all roads lead to Kush. The Nile Valley Civilizations spread out and ended up in West Africa. The West Africans ended up coming to America, and ended up being blended in with the American society. So all of those that claim that Egyptian royalty, and even the some of the biblical royalty, they're all the same family, and they all was in West Africa, and they blended in with the American blacks, and the American blacks, they have that in their system. It's there. So all roads lead to Kush. This is our first episode, episode 1. Be looking out for more. Be looking out for great guests that I'm gonna bring up on here. I'm gonna bring on guests up on here that's gonna talk about stuff that you never even thought about. Stuff that's gonna link us in and show you the connection of how we are all one. So with that, I say, Hotep, peace.